to order. This is a regular meeting of the Florence Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Burkhart, will you take the roll?
Yes, Chairman Pranzel.
Present.
Vice Chairman Frost. Present. Commissioner Bell. Commissioner Schmidt.
Present.
Commissioner Chappelle.
Present.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Discussion, approval, disapproval of the minutes of the special meeting conducted October 11th, 2017, and minutes of the regular meeting conducted on February 1st, 2018. So we'll start with October 11th, 2017. Open up to the commission for any questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Please.
I appreciate the additions that you made to the minutes to clarify what we discussed. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'll join Chairman Frost. I do appreciate the minutes being more accurate to reflect the meeting. Thank you. I will ask for a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
I second that motion. I have a motion from Chairman Schmidt to accept the minutes as submitted for October 11, 2017, and seconded by Commissioner Chappelle. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carried. Okay, minutes for the regular meeting conducted on February 1st, 2018. Open it up to the commission for any comments. No comments. May I have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of February 1st, 2018 as submitted.
We have a motion by Chairman Schmidt to accept the minutes as submitted, seconded by Commissioner Frost. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. New business. Introduction of Mr. Larry Harmer, Town of Florence Planning Manager. Discussion only. Now, what can we discuss? Why are you here? Why is there air?
Okay, had to make sure my button was on, all these newfangled apparatus. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, good evening. I'm glad to be here. I was hired recently as a planning manager. This is my 9th day on the job, and already am being inundated. I just wanted the opportunity to meet you all and say good evening and hello, and kind of give you a brief background. A couple of us had a discussion outside, but I wanted it formal and on the record as to who I am, where I came from. I moved to Arizona in 1973 and have worked in and around the state most of the time since then, primarily in planning in one form or another. I have been out of the state a couple times, but always come back. Actually, the last time I moved back was in '95, so been here a substantial amount of time. My focus has been primarily in rural communities. I have served with the city of Prescott, town of Buckeye, Apache Junction. I know several people that are currently on staff here from when I was in Apache Junction, and they were elsewhere in Pinal County. I interacted with Pinal County and the then county supervisors when there was only 3 some years ago. My family has strong ties to Arizona, dating back to the 1800s. Ancestors served under Crook. My grandfather served under Pershing in the Pancho Villa battle wars. And I had an uncle that designed the Granite Creek Dam outside of Prescott back in the 50s. So our family's been around here quite a while. I've been lucky enough to work on projects of various sizes and descriptions over the years, a lot of historic preservation activities, a lot of economic development activities, rewriting of codes, updating codes, general plans. There are currently several general plans in the state that I authored that are still in effect and operating. And coming here, I'm just kind of looking forward to the opportunity to working in a historic-based community like Florence. It's always interested me. I've actually volunteered at McFarland House some years ago on different occasions. So I'm just looking forward to the tenure here. We've already leapt into certain areas that I think need addressing and that you may appreciate, trying to simplify certain processes, simplify application types, try to put a new standard moving forward as far as reviews are concerned, as far as timing. Although, regardless of what it says in the notes and applications, that it takes up so long to review something, I don't believe in that. I set aside time almost every day to take care of those day-to-day business license requests or simple building permits and things like that. I try to turn them around in 2 days. And so things of that nature, maybe helping to institute a little different psyche and thought process as far as how we serve the public. Very customer service oriented. If there's an issue, I want to talk about it, whether it's with an existing business, a potential new business, an existing resident, a potential new resident, to make sure that we can at least understand concerns and issues that they've been facing. Hopefully we can address them and mitigate them. That isn't always, possible to do, but we need to listen and try. And that's my basic philosophy, and it seems to be the shared philosophy of the staff that I'm meeting so far. There's been apparently a lot of staff changes here over the last 6 months, 8 months, and I don't know that we're done yet. They've hired a new planner that will be coming on board in May to help us out also, who, I guess the polite way to say it, has not been jaded by working for other communities. She is a new graduate coming out of NAU with honors, who has done some internships for some organizations around the state. So hopefully that we can bring her in and mentor her and allow her to gain experience in a nice broad base and a very, very customer service orientation right from the start. I think that's very, very important for us. So that's generally me and my background. I don't know if you'd have any general questions, but I'm sure as time goes on, we'll get to know each other better and hopefully have a mutually beneficial relationship.
Great. Thank you, sir. I'll open up to the commission. Do you have any questions for Mr. Harmer?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to address a question to Mr. Harmon. This is just a technical thing for me, not the rest of the members of the commission, but I'm visually impaired, and working with Dana Burkhart, he has been kind enough to email to me at my home the packet of information for our meetings. If possible, I'd like that to continue, because I can then print them at home myself and look at them on the optical devices that I have. Could that be accomplished?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Chappelle, and if I pronounce somebody's name wrong, jump right in and correct me. But yes, I think I was copied on that whenever Dana sent that to you, and I think that's actually a good thing. And quite frankly, I would like to, if it's all right with the rest of the commissioners, I think we just ought to be emailing the packets to you at the earliest convenience of us getting them done, just so you already have them ahead of time to review them. To me, I think that's something we should be doing as a matter of course, and we'll institute those things as we go along. But we want to do whatever is helpful for you to understand, the applications as they come through.
Mr. Harmer, I just have a couple of comments to bring you into the fold, if you will. I want you to understand something, because I am very happy that you're here. You've got some snow on the roof, means
Yeah.
means you have some experience. You've been around the block, and I just want you to know that from the work permit planning standpoint, mostly in the work permit area, there are some bruised feelings with the public. And I'm glad that you're here to help bring that bridge back. We've always been a tight-knit community where town hall was the people's house, basically. They're very comfortable place to be. Not like some town halls where you feel like they're doing you a big favor to talk to you. Just a while back, a couple of weeks ago, I guess, I lose track of time, I have some snow up there too. We all sang Kumbaya here with all the commissioners and the council. And one of the things I noted was that applicants were called customers. Now I understand the phrase customer service. And I think you understand this too, but it's worth saying those customers are your employer. And I look forward to your expertise and your personality to help bring the bridges back between your organization or your staff and the rest of the community. I'd like to see a better working relationship between town hall and the public itself. So I look forward to your presence here.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you'll find that because of the snow on the roof, I've passed the idealistic stage of planning many, many years ago and is more practical. I agree with you. I don't like necessarily referring to the other side of the counter as customers. I mean, we're partners in this. The goal here is to build a viable, sustainable community. I think that's the bottom line. It needs to be healthy and helpful for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. It's the only way you get anything done. All right. Is there any more questions or comments for Mr. Howard?
I'd just like to make a comment. At our Kumbaya session, as this was referred to, there was some comments made by residents of Caliente about their setback and stuff, that there's some way that could be revisited and looked at. It has, from the information that I got, caused some hard feelings towards the town by those residents out there, and if that can be looked at again, I think that would, if there was something we could do to alleviate those hard feelings out there.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Schmidt, of course, being green, I don't know all the details of what's going on out there, and since it's not an agendized item, I can't address it directly, but I have been made aware of some issues and concerns, and it is a topic of discussion right now in our department.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any more comments or questions? All right, moving forward. Design review, Mosaic Church campus and first phase improvements. The 1751 DR. This is a presentation for approval or disapproval. It's a request by Kevin McGinnis for preliminary design review approval of a proposed 10-acre multi-phase church campus development plan located at the southwest corner of Merrill Ranch Parkway and Felix Road. This request also includes design review approval for the Phase 1 building and site improvements. Mr. Burkhart, do we have a presentation?
Chairman Pranzo, we do. If I may, Chairman, Commissioners, this item has been before the Planning Commission back in 2014, just to give you a quick heads up. And we're going to revisit it this evening due to some lapse in permits. So I will briefly explain that after I get give you the big picture. So there's an overall church campus proposed on a 10-acre parcel there at the corner of Felix and Merrill Ranch Parkway. This evening's approval or disapproval or discussion will consist of the review of the architecture and design review package for Phase 1 of 5 phases for that overall church campus. We did want to bring the entire campus to you so you have the ability to familiarize yourself with it, ask any questions or make any notes as obviously as future phases come to fruition. They'll be before the commission again for each phase or however the applicant chooses or owners choose to bring forward development on the site. But as we get the architecture and elevations and other details refined, then you'll have that complete package for that phase or for the entire project, depending on how they choose to submit to the town. So just want to put that into perspective for you. You have the overall 5-phase site plan. This evening's discussion is most specifically for that phase 1 improvement. As I mentioned, there is a little history. The Planning Commission voted back in 2014, in September of 2014, to approve the design review package, essentially what you're going to review again this evening. Since that time, for one reason or another, permits lapsed, the design review approval then lapsed as well. So that's why it's back before you. The applicant is very eager to get his church up and running. You may have seen out on location that a majority of the site improvements are installed. The building is certainly in place. Architecture appears to be close to finished, and then it looks like really final grading and landscape and drainage items might need to be addressed at this point and moving forward. So that's where we're at with this development. So if I could run through the brief presentation I prepared. Like I said, we're looking at phase 1, which is an office, a Sunday school, and also a small worship hall for about 100 seats or 100 members. And then also we're getting a look at the preliminary review of the church campus. There's the overall 5 phases shown, and on the left in the project data, you see the phasing information broken out for each phase, the site area, the building area, the number of parking spaces that will go along with each phase and so forth. And I could imagine over time, like every development and master plan, there will be tweaks and changes and evolution of the plan through time and through the use of the property. Here is phase 1, blow-up site plan. You have about 31 parking spaces serving the building that's been constructed, and that you'll see the architecture for shortly. We have one of the conditions of approval in 2014 was to improve fire turnaround, which you see on this site plan, and it is also improved on site and has been inspected. So that's the entirety of phase 1. Are there any comments or questions regarding the site plan while I'm on this
I'll open up
slide?
to the commission.
I just have a question. I'm looking at this, and in the presentation, it says during the phase 1, in one part it says there's 31 parking spots, and another one it says there's 34. But there's only 2 parking. We make a stipulation that we can double that, and this says it meets town code, but 2 parking spaces for 31 or 34 doesn't seem like it's adequate enough handicap for 30-some spaces.
The applicant noted for IC2 on the plan. Can you point or show me where those other 2 are located? Oh, all the different golf courses. Thank you very much. Okay, and Chairman, Commissioners, I will point out regarding the parking calculations, the older site plan had some discrepancies with the parking with the overall parking calculations. So this updated site plan is accurate with the required of 23 spaces and 23 spaces required with 31 total spaces provided and requiring 2 of those being ADA accessible. So I would ask you to look at this site plan for these specific phasing details as it's more accurate than the master site plan. So the applicant noted that you see the 2 ADA spaces, there's actually the 2 spaces to the east of that are also ADA compliant, and we will.
So for phase 1 for these, there are 4?
4
Excellent. Thank you. That's my only concern.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Reading through this information and looking at all the diagrams, I have concern about the statement that the only way to get in is with a right-hand turn, and the only way to get out is with a right-hand turn. And that kind of concerns me when you think of the geography. If it's only going to be a right-hand turn off of Merrill Ranch Parkway, I don't know how people are going to navigate if they're coming from north or south. Whether they're going to make a U-turn, because the place that they would make a U-turn on close to Independence Way, which is the cutoff off of Merrill Ranch Parkway down to Felix, is a very active corner going into the Anthem Grill and the golf course. So making U-turns is of concern to me, plus the fact almost directly across from the entrance to the church property is a cutoff for a new Sun City Anthem area called Pinnacle. That's the only entrance into Pinnacle off of Merrill Ranch Parkway heading east. So I'd really like to have an explanation of how the traffic is going to flow if you only have a right-hand turn in and a right-hand turn out.
Chairman Pranzo, Commissioner Chappelle, right-in, right-outs aren't uncommon, particularly when you're controlling ingress, egress along a arterial roadway such as this. We want a certain number of spacing. In this condition, Merrill Ranch Parkway has a median, landscape median divider. And for that reason, the big picture you saw on the master plan does have 2 points of entrance, one also off of, or a second entrance off of Felix Road, which in the future would provide that access, secondary access into the property. As of now, correct, if somebody were to be traveling north on Felix Road and go west on Merrill Ranch Parkway, they would do a U-turn after the divided median to come back to do a right-in and then ultimately right-out when exiting the property. That is perhaps the safest turning movement in traffic, opposed to crossing lanes and so forth. So in terms of a safety concern for that portion, the town, the engineer, did not express any concern or issue with this being more problematic than any other right-in, right-out entrance. And they did note that, U-turns are permitted on this roadway. And there's no intention right now to restrict any U-turns. So I hope that helps shed some light on the right-in, right-out condition. Getting an additional median cut there would take a lot of other review, traffic impact, and study and so forth. But I certainly think we could note that to look into the future, depending on how the commission feels on this topic.
Mr. Burkhart, over the past 4 years, this commission has matured a little bit more from where we were in terms of entrances and exits to public areas. Now, I understand future phases will allow for at least 2 that I see. When we consider fire departments, ambulance service, things of that nature, we always stipulate 2 ways in, 2 ways out. I guess a good place to start is what is your percentage completion to date for phase 1? If the applicant will take the microphone at the podium, please state your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Kevin McInnes. I live at 7615 West Georgetown Way in Florence, there in Anthem, and have done so for 11 years, last October. One of the very first people in the community, the seventh home that closed on the park side. We are about 90%. The landscape is about 30%.
I'm hearing challenged. Move back from the microphone just a
Sorry.
little bit. And what did you say your percentage completion is?
About 90%. All that needs to be done in the interior would be to sheetrock and paint, tile, flooring, placing the toilet potties for the interior. The exterior is complete for the hardscape, and the landscape is about 30% of the plant material is put in. None of the granite rock or the sod is in yet, but the rest of that is very close. All of the hardscape is complete.
So having a graded, not necessarily blacktopped, alternative entrance and exit, how difficult would that be?
Well, I suppose we'd have to do a cut-in if you had another entrance. With the design would bring us to over on Felix Road, grading for it and having a dirt entrance. I guess that would be at the pleasure of the commission. It wouldn't be a terribly difficult thing to have that in there if it were for emergency. The fire truck, if they were called, would be coming that one direction from on Merrill Ranch Parkway would be their direct route. They wouldn't come around up Felix Road.
What we think about is a fire truck coming in and people trying to leave. Now you've got a bottleneck. You see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You can't bottle them in, and you can't keep whatever the emergency is out. So,
But they're not going to be turning left onto Merrill Ranch Parkway, so if they were exiting, they would be turning away from the oncoming fire truck. And the way the design is, it goes straight in for the turnaround for the building, is there's not parking there. There would be no one in the way. If they were exiting, then they would be on the right side of that very large entry for their car to turn right and be pulled out of the way. Would not be in the way of the fire truck. It is designed so the ladder truck will be able to fit, the big ladder truck to be able to fit and turn around in that area right next to the building. So there's nothing, there wouldn't be anything in the way of the fire truck unless somebody would deliberately block the fire truck with their car. If they were leaving, they would be to keep to the right of because it's not a one-car entry. There's room for probably 3 cars side by side easily for the entry-exit. So if they were leaving, they would turn right. The fire truck would be turning right into there because the route from Station 2 would take them directly up Hunt Highway to Merrill Ranch to us there in moments. So I don't see I don't see a problem with the traffic, even if people were trying to get in their cars and drive away. They wouldn't be in the way of the emergency vehicles.
please.
The problem I have with it is that if the staff at Fire Station 2 are already out on a call and something happens there, it's going to be Station 1 responding. They're going to be coming up Felix Road. They come up Felix Road, if without that second entranceway, they have to come down Merrill Ranch and then make a U-turn in order to get into the church. Also, leaving, everybody in Merrill out there in that Florence Anthem is going to have to turn right and go to the intersection. You're going to have a big backlog of everybody U-turning right there without that cut in the median.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, they'd be exiting right. I would think that would be, I would imagine that would be more clear for them. If I were the fireman, I would prefer that they would all turn right and then to turn left. And I don't know how to be bottlenecking there. I know how this at the stations work. I serve as their chaplain, and I know that this has the design and the entrance and exit for the police, for the fire department has been gone over by the chief battalion and by Captain Kemp, John Kemp, and he's been out there. So I've actually sat with the chief and discussed the process of the turnaround, because at first my discussion with them was I didn't understand the need for such a large area for a turnaround. So I know that the fire department has been out there and has, they were happy with the addition, because that was one of the changes for us. That's what eliminated a couple of our parking spaces and had to recalculate, was for this turnaround. So the fire department's well aware of the situation out there, and it didn't seem to be, in my discussions with them, it was not a concern of theirs of getting the truck in and out in the traffic. So
I don't have an issue with the turnaround. The turnaround's not my issue. It's the ingress and egress, getting somebody out there. And Fire Station 2 is not sitting out there waiting for a call from the church. They're waiting for a call from anybody. So if they're out on another
Certainly.
call and something happens at the church, Fire Station 1 responds. Well, they're going to come down
understand.
Hunt Highway and come up Felix Road, and there's no ingress off of Felix Road. So they don't have a way to get in unless they come up to Merrill Ranch Parkway, come down, make a big U-turn, and then come in that one way. If that cut was there in the median, it would alleviate that. It would also alleviate backlog that's going to be everybody leaving, going back into the Anthem area. It's going to be going to the intersection of Merrill Ranch and Felix and making a U-turn.
yeah, I see your point.
Backlog.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I suppose that, from there is who pays for that? Is that going to be responsibility of the church? To be paying for that, and this has been before the committee before in years past. I would assume that the Anthem would be not interested in paying for the change, and it would become the responsibility of the church for that expense. I don't know. For my parishioners to be safe is important. We have the fire suppression system. We have all those types of things in place. So, yes, I understand your concerns.
Mr. Chairman.
I just see dollar signs.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible that you could prepare a document a little bit clearer on how you envision the activity going into the church and coming out of the church? Because I have some concern also. You're going to have a school there, so you're going to have school buses in all likelihood, and you're going to need to work with the town with flashing lights for the school zone. And so there's a whole series of issues on the traffic, and in this packet that I received, I'm not comfortable with some of the things that I see in here, because I can foresee problems going into the Anthem Grill and the golf course. That's a very active intersection there.
The next intersection is not there, though. There's a new one that's opening. It's closer. So with I'm sorry, the question was to you, not to me, so I apologize.
Are you going to have an exit out of the church property onto Independence Way? If so, they can make a right turn there to get to that intersection, as opposed to going down to the corner of Merrill Ranch Parkway and Felix and making a U-turn. But I went by there this evening coming over here, and it looks as though there is an entrance there, but maybe that's only for the houses that are going to be built in that area. Can you clarify that in some form of a document, giving us more information on how you envision traffic flow?
Chairman Pranzo,
Yeah.
Commissioner Chappelle.
This is for approval or disapproval tonight.
Okay, so I'm out of bounds here.
No, you're not out of bounds. I'm just telling you, we either approve it or disapprove it tonight.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay? Mr.
Harmer.
I want to call you Hammer, and I know
No.
that's not going to work. Harmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I actually initiated the same conversation with the fire marshal today. Same basic question. Mr. Burkhart was part of, it's an email conversation, so, it only could go so far. But the fire marshal indicated that because of this being phase one and the limited size at this point in time, the amount of traffic expected and all those types of things, that he had no real concern about a second entry on or off the property. If you like, one of the things I had suggested was to come across off of Felix on some type of a dust-controlled, route through the dirt area to access the back of the turnaround, which would be a fairly simple, inexpensive method. And he thought it was something worth considering, but at the same time, he wasn't overly concerned about having the single point at this, at this time, again, just with phase one. If you like, as just part of your consideration, we can just double check with the fire marshal to make sure that they are comfortable with the single point of access, and if they, may or may not want to consider that secondary access onto Felix at this time with a dust control service. We can pursue it further as a part of a stipulation.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Please, Commissioner
Thank you.
Frost.
What phase do you envision this second access being built onto Felix Road?
2,
Phase 2, okay.
sir. Yeah, because we'll need it for the parking,
Okay.
definitely. So, yeah,
Can I
I would expect that as soon as phase 2, which would be the sanctuary, then through the growth of the congregation would be the sanctuary and the remainder of the parking would be put into place. So we'd have our entrance exit on Felix in phase 2.
And looking into your crystal ball, when do you envision that happening?
If you ask some of my pastors, they would hope to see us come back here in a year's time with our plan for phase 2 to present to you, and then be within the next 2.5 years. But everything's money, of course, right? And the anticipation of church growth.
Okay. And
Yep.
Any other questions or
yes,
comments?
yeah, if I could, just a little bit more.
Sure, please.
Mr. Burkhardt, I'm looking at the staff communication on page 2, under parking and circulation. That second paragraph, there's a sentence in there, well, in the middle of the paragraph says, the site will have 2 restricted cul-de-sacs where emergency vehicles can turn around and safely access the building. These areas are designated for fire and engineering requirements and will be restricted for emergency access only. The 2 turning circles will also be curbed and designed as temporary access roads. Am I mistaken? I only see 1 on the site plan.
That is correct, Chairman Pranzo, Vice Chair Frost. Originally 2 were contemplated, and we saw a plan with 2. However, fire department backed off of that, and I apologize for that discrepancy in that staff report.
Okay, so these will be, the area that we see depicted here will be curbed and all-weather access, not paved at this time, but just all-weather access, correct?
The current turnaround is paved.
It is paved.
It is paved, correct? Or is it all-weather access?
It's an all-weather access with the granite and the rest as they're required in specific order of the different materials there.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, so it meets dust control surfacing
Right.
requirements
Okay.
for fire-rated apparatus.
So I thought, I didn't think they want to throw away pavement later on, so. Okay. I think that was what I needed to have clarified. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Then I will make a motion that we approve PZ 1751DR with the condition that prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued, that the town fire chief sign off in writing that 1 ingress and egress will satisfy the needs of that complex. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Gentlemen, this is the part where you say aye or nay. All those in favor? Nay.
Nay.
We don't have a fifth. amend with the condition that prior to the issue of a certificate of occupancy, the complex will have at least a graded, not necessarily paved, emergency entrance and exit to the facility. Those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I need a second, yes. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Yeah, you can impose.
I understand what your motion was there, that this would be in place prior to the occupancy, and it would be restricted to emergency access only? I mean, we're not going to allow everybody to...
If it exists and there's no gate, then people may use it. But the idea is that from Felix Road, there is an entrance and egress. It doesn't have to be paved. It can be dirt, but emergency vehicles can get in and out of there so that there is at least 2 entrances and exits.
And I believe per town code that it just can't be dirt. It'll have to be an all-weather access and dust-proof.
Right.
Okay.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Burkhart, if you need me to clarify that motion later, I'll be glad to. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Call to the public. Call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Individual commission members may respond to criticisms made, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on future agenda. However, members of the commission shall not discuss or take action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. We have no call to the public. Close. Call to the commission. Current events only. Do we have any comments, gentlemen? I'll take your silence as no. May I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll move that we adjourn this night.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt, second by Commissioner Schaffel. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.